Hi, my key doesn't seem to work.
Oh, you must have had it against your phone since you left the room earlier tonight. You should never do that.
Nope.
Then you must have touched your phone for a few minutes with your key. You should really never allow that to happen. The key won't work.
Nope. Didn't happen either.
Then the key must have been in contact with the phone briefly. Never allow your key to come anywhere near your phone.
No, I kept them in separate pockets all night.
Well, I guess then your phone must have been closer than 3 feet from your key for a millisecond? I can't believe you let that happen.
Do you live, eat, and sleep the hotel industry? Looking to brush up on your game? You've come to the right place. Welcome to No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast, with your host, Glenn Hausman.
Hello one, hello all, and welcome back to the No Vacancy podcast with me, Glenn Hausman. I'm so excited to have you all here today. As I gotta say, I am every week. How cool is this? I get to, talk into a microphone. I get to interview interesting people. I get to go to great places, and then I get to share it all with you. And the feedback that I get from all of you is fantastic. I want to thank you all so much for your support. I'm getting real close now to launching No Vacancy News so that we can have a new home page for this podcast and some other stuff that I'm up to. I'm really, really super excited about it. So I want to make sure that you guys don't miss a thing. So make sure you text the word hotel to 66866, and that'll subscribe you to our weekly newsletter. That's hotel to 66866. Easy enough. All you got to do is that. It'll say, hey, thanks so much. And then you just put in your email address and you are good to go. And you'll never miss our Sunday night newsletter. Most importantly, I'm really excited on Tuesday, November 13th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm teaming up with the one and only Anthony Melchiori of Hotel Impossible to do our first ever No Vacancy Presents Facebook Live event with him. If you happen to be at the BDNYHX Experience Show in New York City, we're doing it live from the Black Carpet Live area. Again, that's 2 p.m. November 13th. Right there on the show floor. And for all of you around the world that want to listen, you'll be able to tune into that on Anthony Melchiori and hopefully the No Vacancy podcast page as well. Still trying to figure out the technology about all of that to get it to work smoothly on multiple sites. So we'll see how it's gonna go down. So today I want to thank Duetto for being my sponsor. So this show is brought to you in part by Duetto, the revenue strategy technology platform that thousands of hotels are using to make money and beat market growth rates. Be sure to check out stories from hotels, companies that have had success with them, such as Red Line Hotels. Get that at getrevenueresults.com. That's getrevenueresults.com. I love the guys at Duetto. The founders, Patrick and Marco, are really super people, really smart. And I got to tell you, I'm really interested in what they do. And I know they're going to help build your business too. So I want to thank them for helping build my business. And I want you guys to thank them by helping build their business. So I really appreciate all of that support. So you're probably saying to yourself, hey, why haven't I heard Bruce Ford's voice here? In last week's show, we made all sorts of, of talking a big deal that he would be here today. Well, to be honest with you, while we were at the lodging conference this week, and I'm taping this today, Friday, November 3rd, we were just too slammed, too busy, too worn out, and maybe a little too much cocktail party there at the end of the night in order for us to bring you this show together. Next week, I've got him for both segments of the show, which is going to be interesting. And you may hear some references to us being it's the third week in a row. Well, that won't really be true because he's not here this week. So sorry for, my intentions there were good, but apparently I'm lying to all of you. So what are you going to do, right? What are you going to do? So instead, I'm here alone. I'm here at my home office on Long Island in Smithtown at the Hausman Smokehouse Pool Club and Resort. And I got to tell you, I am so glad to be home. And honestly, I'm a heck of a lot more tired than I sound right now. And I think I sound so filled with energy because I'm so worn out after being on the road on a 12-day trip. It was great appearing at the Washington Hospitality Association's annual meeting and delivering a keynote speech. We had an amazing time talking about, how you can empower your hoteliers through great storytelling to connect with customers. Also, probably I did the most significant interview I might have ever done in my entire career, and that was with Ronnie Hong. Now, she is somebody who was a victim of sex trafficking. She was actually sold into slavery in her native India at age 8 years old. And the story just gets worse from there. So I had spoken with the AV guys there. I hooked up my equipment to tape that interview. I set it all up for them. And then, of course, the AV guys forgot to hit the record button. So that pretty much sucked. So right now, the Washington Hospitality Association was groovy enough to video record it. So they're going to try to see if they can get an audio of that interview because I really want to bring it to you. Sexual trafficking is such a serious issue and something we could all do something about. And I got to tell you, I learned that it's not just at really super lower end hotels in the economy and budget sector. This is happening throughout all areas of the hospitality business. I realized I'm a little bit prejudiced there. So who knows what I was thinking and why I didn't realize it was so extensive. So I'm hoping to get that interview straight up to you. If I can't get that done, then I'm going to see if I can get her back on to do a show with me later. I think it's a very critical issue. I want to figure out how we can all rally behind this in order to find something that you can do to help prevent this in your hotels, or if you are just a road warrior out there that likes listening to the show, maybe try to learn how to recognize some of the signs that everything might not be right with some of your fellow guests at the event. Okay. So last weekend, before heading off to the lodging conference, I was in Las Vegas. And next week's show, the first half is going to be really interesting because we bring back Corey Nyman of the Nyman Group to talk about how his feelings are and what the town's feelings are in the wake of the massacre that occurred there. And I stayed at Mandalay Bay during my stay, which was a little uncomfortable, unusual. We'll get into that issue next week. We also highlight a great local restaurant, Bandito. I loved it. I had such a good time over there. I think they're doing something special. So we do a great conversation, Bruce, myself, and the owner, all talking about the restaurant and how he's created something that you might over there, that you're listening, if you're in the food and beverage world, be able to help with your business as well. All right, so on to the lodging conference, what I learned from the lodging conference. I got to tell you, I was there. I was there at the Arizona Biltmore, over 1,800 people attending this event, and it was probably the most unbridled enthusiasm that I've experienced at a hospitality event in 10 years. I say 10 years very, very specifically, because 10 years ago was 2007 at the last top of the market. After that, everything kind of went, right? So the unbridled enthusiasm now really was concerning me, but I didn't really want to dampen that excitement that was at the event. I definitely didn't want to be a Glenny Downer over there, that's for sure, because it's not my job to bum everyone out, although it is my job to kind of make people think about issues a little bit differently, make people think that if something is really bad, it's maybe not as bad as it is. If something's really good, perhaps it's not as good as it is. So for me, right there in the middle, I just want to make sure that everybody sees things the way I see them. I think that we all have as human beings, we all have this way of sometimes not seeing things, being blinded by the stuff that's already there. It's kind of like, when you or the partner that you're living with leave something by the front door and they promise they were going to put it away, and it's kind of, you see it for a little while, and then you just kind of don't see it anymore, but your partner never actually puts that thing away, and it's just kind of there, and it's just kind of there, and it kind of, it just becomes a fixture of your house. So instead of dealing with the situation, you just don't see it anymore. You're blinded by it. You're ignoring it. And I think that there's something like that that's happening in the hospitality industry now. And when I was at the lodging conference, everybody was talking about the great times continuing, but the one thing nobody talked about is how are we going to plan for a future when the great times aren't continuing. In 2007, nobody thought that the great times were going to come to an end. They thought it would go on forever. And then suddenly, seemingly out of nowhere, the banking crisis affected everybody's lives in a serious and a meaningful way. Businesses were damaged. Businesses were sold. Businesses were lost to the banks. And I don't want to see anything like that happen to you. Now, of course, I'm very, very bullish on the future of the industry. I do think that there are a lot of small things that are going to affect the industry, not including the Black Swan event, as we all have to say in our statements. But the fact is, I think that the demand has been good. The supply has been moderated. I think that there's changing cultural shifts from us wanting things to wanting experiences, and younger people in particular wanting to be focused on having experience, and baby boomers who actually have money want to deliver experiences for them, their families, and by families I just mean the people that they live with and the children and the grandchildren and sometimes even great-grandchildren. So I really expect that even though we might be talking about a few dollars here in rate, a few dollars there in rate over time, maybe a little loss in occupancy over time, I do think, generally speaking, unless there's that giant black swan event, that even when the issue dips down, it's not going to be as bad as we think. In terms of revenue, I do think that there are some other issues that we have here that are going to affect the business. For example, wages has been rising. Now, I don't want to say wages rising is a negative thing, because the people that work in your hotels, especially in areas such as housekeeping, are working their butts off, and they absolutely, unequivocally deserve to get paid. They deserve to have a livable wage. They deserve to have a life because they're working hard for you. Now, I totally get that a lot of my hospitality friends take care of their employees, but rising wages is a problem. I speak to my friends at management companies. I speak to my friends at ownership groups. And one of the things that I keep hearing from them constantly over and over again is that folks are leaving to go down the street to a new hotel that opens or a different hotel that's in the neighborhood simply for something like 50 cents to $1 more an hour. It's a big deal. It's hard to replace these people. It's hard to lose somebody that's doing a great job in your hotel and taking care of your guests. And you don't want that to happen. You need to find ways to engage your employees. Give them a path of success. Give them a goal for their career where they can move beyond the front office, move beyond the back office into corporate. Do whatever you need at your management companies in order to show that these people that it's not a short-term job, it's a career opportunity. I think that is the big issue that we're missing here. As we shift from a society that's based on manufacturing to a society that's based on a service economy, another reason why I think the hospitality industry over the long term is going to be good is that we really need to focus on taking care of these people within your organization so they can continue to deliver great service to your customers. As the service industry continues to expand, as there's more hotels, as there's more restaurants, and as far as restaurants go, more than half of all food dollars are being spent on restaurants, not grocery stores. So more places are opening, which means that more people must fill those jobs. And not everybody out there is great for the service economy jobs. There's a lot of people that might be fabulous at building things with their hands, incredible at doing things in the manufacturing community, but might not have the instincts to be well suited for the service industry. So that means that market out there to get those people to work in your hotel jobs, the ones that are going to mean the most to connecting with your customers in the future as we become more technology invested, that's going to be the people that we need to really concentrate on. That's why you need to really think about paying them more as you eliminate certain jobs from the hotels based on technology and automation, and make sure that these people are delivering fabulous, intuitive, amazing service to each and every one of your guests. So remember, the challenge coming forward, in my opinion, is going to be finding the right people that will highlight the service culture that all of you out there work so hard to deliver every day in your hotels, right? So that's one thing that I'm seeing at the lodging conference. But now to cover some of that news portion that I was seeing at the lodging conference this week. So the major hotel companies are amping up the number of brands that they have because they think overall scale is incredibly critical, right? David Kong, for example, president and CEO of Best Western Hotels and Resorts, with whom I'm going to be working with next week. If you're at Best Western, make sure you check out my two panels. I'm speaking to next Friday, the 10th. I've got a great panel with all the industry association leaders, such as Chip Rogers of AHOA, Catherine Lugar of AHLA, and Roger Dow of U.S. Travel. That's going to be a great panel, followed by one with the board of directors from Best Western. I've gotten sidetracked. sidetracked. Back to what Mr. Kong said. Mr. Kong said during a panel at the lodging conference that scale is really important to be competitive right now. And that was kind of a theme that's kind of going through the entire industry right now. Everybody is really focused on bigger is better. The bigger fish are eating the little fish, and they are getting absolutely huge. I mean, you take a look at Marriott, for example, 30-plus brands right now in their portfolio, and where can they go? In an interview that I speak with after this section with Liam Brown, a president over at Marriott, he shares that philosophy, that bigger is better philosophy. And we talk about the how bringing some of those companies together, maintaining a culture of innovation. So it's really interesting to me how you've got a lot of companies out there that are getting stronger and stronger by building bigger brands, because that gives them the ability to do everything, right? It's marketing dollars, it's technology spend dollars, it's bigger and larger loyalty programs that have more members in it that can deliver reservations to the bottom line. So there's lots of reasons for that scale, and there's lots of reasons to increase the number of brands that are out there. Now, you take a look at the other side of the equation, and some of the owners, developers, and management companies are getting worried by the number of brands that are out there, not just from one company, but if you take a look at all the companies that are out there in the hospitality field, many of them are introducing new brands. They have in the last few years, and they certainly will in the next few years, right? For example, Wyndham recently announced trademark their newest soft brand, which is already got more than half a dozen deals in it. Avid Hotels was just released, and you could check out a video soon that I did with Jen Gribble, who's in charge of that brand. And what happens, they've already got 50 deals or applications in on that brand. 50 applications. That's amazing to me. Hilton is talking about introducing several new brands this year. So we're seeing a lot more brands come into the market. And while that's great for the hotel companies and the franchise teams that are selling it, the information that I get from the folks on the other side, like I was starting off before I got distracted in this conversation with the management companies and the ownership groups, is it's bringing a lot of more cannibalization into the industry. Now, the major brands' point of view is no, it's bringing in new groups of people to travel, but the ownership groups are saying no. That might be right in 5% of the business, but the rest of the time it's cannibalizing me. If I have X hotel on one side of the street from this company, if you introduce a new brand and I don't buy that brand and put it across the street, well, you're just going to sell it to somebody else and then open that brand new hotel from the same company that's supposed to be delivering X% of reservations to me, and some of those are definitely going to be off-shifted to the people across the street. So right now, because the industry is at the peak, I totally believe that it's an issue that's lurking below the surface. But as the industry turns downward, whatever they may not be, and I'm not going to put my best guess here on tape, but when it does, or I should say on this digital chip, when the industry does at some point, and it will because that's the nature of the industry, start to decrease and go downhill, I think that this is an issue that is totally going to bubble up. When new hotels with the same with new hotels open across the street from the same company, that's going to be a big issue. But same difference if a hotel brand opens across the street within the same family of brands. That's one argument, but what if it's another family of brands? And I start to, wonder, then what happens? Is that, just typical competition? Is it outsized competition? Would you out there as an owner or management group prefer to see the same family of brands open up a hotel across the street, or different family of brands open up across the street? I think that, to me, is really one of the most interesting questions out there currently. And I'd like to know what you think. Let me know on social media, either on the No Vacancy page in the comments section under this article, or at Traveling Glenn on Twitter and Instagram. And again, hey guys, be sure to subscribe. Text HOTEL to 66866. That's HOTEL to 66866. Just text it. You can subscribe to the new newsletter. All right, so even Jeff Bellotti, president and CEO of Wyndham Hotel Group, says that he thinks that there are there is still opportunity to add more brands. And I think this has to do with them being them feeling they're a distribution network now, because they're asset-light companies. And all the hotel companies over a number of years have sold most of their assets. So they're not brick-and-mortar companies anymore. They're really marketing and distribution companies, right, that are out there. And Mr. Bellotti in particular thinks it's all about distribution and the number of reservations they could contribute to owners every single night. So he said specifically in a quote, "It's about our ability at a time where we feel technology has never mattered more in terms of what we provide to our franchisees and our own. And in terms of room nights, we could drive, in terms of the rate, we could drive the occupancy and the RevPAR." So what they're saying and what he's saying, what some of the other CEOs are saying, that because of technology, because of their roles as distributors, even if they add more brands, that will continue to facilitate more and more reservations, bringing more people to the table, which I know is an issue that I believe that David Kong believes as well. Now, Eric Danziger, president and CEO of Trump Hotels, said that the industry is relying too much on technology, right? That we need to make sure that we get back into the business of hospitality. And that is an issue that I've been talking about here on this podcast. And one of the things that I've been talking about as we go forward through all of my keynote speeches and in panel presentations that I do, it's so essential that we make sure we keep that humanity in every aspect of our business. And just rewind to the earlier part of this presentation, and you can hear that too. All right, so on day two of the event, I had the honor to do a general session panel over at the lodging conference with some really, really super big players. It was so much fun to do that. Man, I got to tell you, how cool is it that I get to stand on stage in front of like 1,500 people and talk to some of the top CEOs in our entire industry, right? So one quote that I really liked out of that kind of cuts the heart of everything I've been talking about here on the microphone today is from Kevin Frid, COO of North and Central America for Accor Hotels. He says, "If you're complacent today, you're dead. We're fortunate to be in a business where demand grows every year, but the competition does too." I think that's really a great way to underscore everything I've been prattling on about for the last 20 minutes or so, right? Really interesting statement. Ken Green, President Americas for Carlson Residor Hotel Group, says that it's about consistency, coming down to understanding your demographics, who's coming and building relationships with your customers. I would add it's also important to think about the psychographics aspect of it in there, really understanding what your brand is all about, finding some key words that you can describe your brand with, how they work with the customers that you're looking for, and kind of try to unite it all together there. And then, of course, let's see, Mike Midzigian, chairman and managing partner of Watermark Capital Partners, during my session said that in many cases, labor costs are moving faster than RevPAR. We need to find more technologies to pull down labor costs. Now, again, that gets to a lot of what I was saying, but I want to add a word of caution. When you are finding technologies to pull down labor costs, which I approve of, make sure it doesn't affect your interaction with customers. If you allow that to happen, you're going to be dead in the water. Unless you're going to go ahead and open up an all-robot hotel, which is geared towards people that do not want to have any human interactions. But to me, the future is finding ways to maintain human interactions even as we get to be in a more technologically enhanced type of word. So let me know what you think about all of these issues out there. Again, drop me a note either in the comment section on Facebook, on LinkedIn, wherever you're reading these articles, or at Traveling Glenn. Right now, how easy is that? Come on, you can do it. You can do it. Participate. Join me. And now I'm going to take a commercial break, and as soon as we get back, I have the most amazing conversation with Liam Brown. He's president, franchising owner services with Select Brands, North America, Marriott International. He's got the world's longest title, and the conversation, fortunately, is even longer, more interesting. And the one thing we don't talk about is anything dealing with how many numbers are in the pipeline for them or any of that kind of stuff. That's the stuff you don't need to hear. What you need to hear from him is deep and philosophical about the entire direction that Marriott International is going, what it's like bringing together two massive companies to form one company, and just getting to know Mr. Brown a little bit better. I got to tell you, this interview was awesome. It was so much fun to do, and I can't wait for you to hear it. So stick around, and right after this break, Liam Brown.
Have a question for your host, Glenn? Tweet him now at Traveling Glenn. No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast. We'll be right back.
Hey everybody, Glenn here. And if you're like me, then I know that you love terrific art. Art that creates a sense of place. Art that tells a story of where you are. Art that adds a level of detail that you can't get anywhere else. And great folks that do this, Kevin Barry Fine Art Associates. You can find them online at kevinbarryfineart.com, and I highly encourage that you check them out. One recent project that I'm totally in love with is the Fairmont, Washington, D.C., where they created a custom project with a local artist, and they created some of this on site. They actually created a multi-dimensional wall sculpture from gold blocks, which is an abstracted map grid of the Washington, D.C. area. It's got different elevations to it and looks absolutely fantastic. It was done along with Deborah Forrest and Amanda Jackson of Forrest Perkins, which is now Perkins Eastman. And they all work together to create this fabulous new look. So if you want to create a fabulous new look for your hotel, or if you just love great art, check out kevinbarryfineart.com or give him a call at 310-945-2655. Let him know Glenn sent you.
Back to the show. It's No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast with your host, Glenn Hausman.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the No Vacancy podcast with me, Glenn Hausman. But you know that because you already listened to the first half of the show. Why am I talking about that? Well, I'm just excited. I'm a little jazzed up today because I have with me Liam Brown, President, North America, Select and Extended Stay Lodging and Owner Franchise Services at Marriott International with me. Someone I've been a big fan of yours. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Glenn. Delighted to be here.
It's exciting for me to be here with you. First question I have for you is, what's harder, remembering your title or all the brands that Marriott has now?
Oh, they're both equally challenging. Yes, they're both equally challenging. But
so, yeah,
all in a good way.
Yeah, for sure. I got to say, you're looking really terrific these days. You got a new fitness regimen going on that I should be aware of, because I'm adding pounds at a furious pace.
I was blessed to get a great trainer like 2 years ago. Well, the story is my son gave me a Fitbit on Father's Day, and then I got a trainer, and I got on a good program. And I had a remarkable trainer, a lady by the name of Frances, and she was relentless in making sure that I changed my behavior. So it's all, it's a very simple formula. You eat less and you exercise more, but it's very easy to say and very hard to do.
Yes, I was doing great for a little while there, and then I totally fell off the wagon, and it drove away without me.
Well, it was very easy to fall off the wagon. We live in a very bountiful society. I mean, yeah. I know we talk about the United States as having its challenges, and there's certainly no doubt that there are some imperfections in it, but at the end of the day, it's a very bountiful country. And in our business in particular, where we're in the hospitality business, and it's food and beverages, and we like to put on a good show and take care of our guests. We like to take care of one another. Yep. There's multiple opportunities to be out every night for dinner.
Oh, yeah.
And especially when you're visiting, when I visit some of Marriott's hotels, the team there, they want to put on their best show, so you have the nicest selection of food and artistic presentation, and it's very hard to say no to it all. And you're doing the team a little bit of a disservice by not saying, "Oh, that's fabulous, let me try it out. Oh, that tastes so good," and all that sort of good stuff. So in many ways, we do it all to ourselves. Yeah. But I think at the end of the day, though, too, it's important to have a program. The balance, between health and wellness and working out and trying to, because we live it's a challenging world we live into. We work hard in our business. It's a 24/7 business. And I think you have to be fit for it or be able to do
sure
it.
Do. I'm finding it's hard for me to get back on the wagon as I'm trying to do so many different things. I just wish that there'd be better exercise on airplanes, since I spend all of my time on that. If there was a little gym there, that'd be great.
Can you imagine an airline or an airplane with a gym in it? That'd be pretty cool. But I think, the square footage might be the good utilization of space. You know, Ryanair in Ireland, I mean, their chief executive wants to take out the bathroom so he can put in 3 more seats, because he's only going to have 1 toilet on a plane, and it's going to be coin operated. His point being that if you give it away for free, people use it.
Right.
But if you have to use a coin, you say, I'm going to hold it till we land.
That'll work great until someone doesn't hold it till they land.
So
and then headlines
then
all over
it'll
the
be
world.
bad news. Yeah.
Right.
Yes, it'll be a social media event.
Okay, so I'm going to say no pay toilets at any Marriott hotel.
Oh, I think that's a good thing to say. Yeah, no. That's a good statement of fact.
All right, so now we're a good few minutes into the interview. Talked about nothing really in particular or worthwhile, but I think the biggest issue is you went to University of Maryland. So did I.
You did?
Yes.
Excellent.
So that's very exciting.
Yeah.
So when was that experience?
I did my MBA. My undergraduate was in Trinity College Dublin in Ireland, and the Dublin Institute of Technology, which was kind of a trade school. I have a diploma in hotel and catering management and a business degree from Trinity College.
Right.
But then in 2004, I went to the University of Maryland to do my MBA, an executive MBA. And it was a great experience. Loved it. It was awesome. It was hard work because I had a day job as well, working at Marriott, and then trying to figure out how to do the MBA as well. The first 30 days I thought I was going to die. I said, I'll never be able to manage this.
But you did it.
I did do it. And there was a lot of smart people in my class who helped me finish it. So it was good. I love that kind of team environment. Put 4 or 5 people together to solve a problem. The smartest guy is just, the cream rises to the top and they make it happen.
Yeah, so
And believe me, I wasn't one of those guys.
Right. Now all this talk of cream is getting me hungry now. Now I'm already off the diet that I just
There
started.
you go.
So, Liam, you've been with Marriott for a good chunk of your career?
28 years.
That's a long time.
It is a long time.
I mean, I've been restless. I always change jobs and stuff like that, because part of the career seems to be you need to change jobs in order to be successful, but you stayed with one company. How did it work out that you got to such a great position by staying at one company all of these years?
Well, I think the wonderful thing about Marriott is it's a company that believes in opportunity and providing opportunity for people to grow and develop. 28 years ago, I was the general manager of the Courtyard in Syracuse, New York, and I've had wonderful opportunities too. I think if you ask me, and I've been very fortunate, and my success in many ways is the result of having a lot of mentors who helped me, a lot of different jobs that gave me various different skills, and the fact that the company pushes you to expand your capabilities and that kind of stuff. But if I were to give anybody a little word of advice about,
please.
I mean, the reason why you leave a job is to go get additional experiences and to enhance your resume. I was really fortunate in Marriott in that I could do that within the company. I went from operations of an individual unit to the opportunity to run a region of hotels, to run a full-service hotel, and then I went to corporate, and I remember there was a guy, Joe Lavin, who called me up and said, you should come down and work for me in franchising. And I remember saying, Joe, I don't know the first thing about franchising. I'm an operator. And Joe said to me, hey, he says, you've got great business skills, you've got a good collection of jobs and resume under you, you've got very good business thinking skills, good relationship skills. It's only a franchise agreement. He says, I can teach you everything there is to know about it.
Right.
And I think, so enhancing and adding to your resume and taking some risks with jobs, because I thought, hey, I'm an operator. I know what a clean hotel is, what a dirty hotel is. I know how to run a good hotel. I know what a good GM is. That's my comfort zone. I've worked a lot in it. I've been in operations all my life. I know what cleanliness and friendliness is. I know what brand standards are. I know how to make that happen. There's a little bit of risk going into the franchising, and then I went into development. And if you think about people in development doing new deals, they typically begin in feasibility, financial analysis, and all that sort of stuff. And I didn't do that, so I was a little unusual. But
sure.
because of my resume, the perceived breadth and depth of my skill set, the company took the risk on me to do that job. And I think the company and Mr. Marriott the company has been wonderful to me in terms of providing me with opportunity. I have not had this. I mean, I can honestly say I have not had the same job for 28 years.
No.
I have had different careers in 28 years within Marriott.
That's pretty interesting. I mean, I'm mumbling here because it's fascinating to me about how you have not only opportunity from the company, but more how you push yourself out of your comfort zone to achieve different things. And that's one of the things that I found. Now, there's two distinct philosophies. I'm a big do what you're not comfortable with kind of guy, where there's a whole other school where you should not worry about that other stuff. You should just continue to excel at what you're doing. I like the getting out of your comfort zone. I think it makes you a better professional all around.
Well, and it works whatever the individual wants, right? Yeah. There are people who can really excel going up, and for want of a better word, a silo. That's not the word I want to use. Right. It is, going up a straight up in that, whether it be a skill set like architecture and construction or engineering, or and to take that. And that works for that person. But for some, what worked for me, it might not work for everybody. I'm with you. I mean, I think you learn the most when you take risks and you have a little bit of a fear in your belly about, I got to work hard to figure this out because I really don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And that is a big motivator because, we don't want to fail. We want to succeed. And I'm excited by learning new things and doing things differently. And it keeps you interested. It keeps you alive and vital and focused and adding value, I think.
Yeah, I find there's complacency in comfort, which could be very dangerous, especially when you're with a worldwide organization such as Marriott. And you see, I'm bringing it all back now.
You are to the
brand.
big M.
So I'm very curious as to how the company itself fosters a culture of innovation, because on one hand, you can see Marriott as a big company, and they're just this giant global force. But I always hear they're trying this, they're trying this, they're trying this other thing.
Yeah.
How do you continue to keep doing those things instead of just saying, hey, we're the 800-pound gorilla?
Yeah. Well, I think we're very fortunate with the leaders we have, because you're right. The bigger you get, the more of a certain inertia you can have in terms of size and scope. You're going down a particular path, and it's very hard to turn the battleship. But we have leadership in our company, and it's from Bill Marriott to Arnie Sorensen, who give us permission to fail, to try stuff. We just had an innovation week last week where we bring in thinkers from outside doing different things, and Arnie kicked it off by basically saying you have to have permission to fail, and fail fast, because you got to try new things, and if they don't work, that's fine. Throw them, move on to the next one. And I think we have a long culture of innovation, going back to the 9-seat root beer stand.
I was going to say hot chops,
9-seat, which was an A&W franchise, and then in the winter, that sold root beer, chilled root beer, and frozen glasses, and all that sort of stuff. And Mr. Marriott Senior discovered that in the winter he wasn't making enough money to feed his family. So he had to do something different, and that's when they went into, and that evolved into hot shops and a big restaurant business. And then our current chairman, Bill Marriott, who took over the company and took it in a very different direction into hotels. And all sorts of things back then, whether it be cruise lines and various other businesses that we tried our hand at, and we said, maybe we need to stop doing that.
Right.
So I think our culture, our 90-year culture of innovation and doing things, we're a very different company than we were in 1927.
I think you're a very different company than you were in 2007.
I would agree. But the thing that hangs it all together is the people, because culture makes things happen. It is the ability, any person can walk into a leadership position and say, this is, cast a vision for the future and say, this is what I want to happen. But if you don't have the culture, the belief system, the inspired followership, the permission to fail, then it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen.
How do you keep a culture in place for decades and decades and decades?
I think everybody has to live it. It's everybody's responsibility, and from the top all the way down. Leaders, not just the leaders of our business, but the people who make it happen on a day-to-day basis. They're all the protectors of the culture. They are the manifestations of the culture and how they interact with our guests and one another. And there's lots of protections you can have in there. We can talk about what our values are. And I think that's your responsibility as a leader, to talk about our values. And then you got to walk the talk. If you're not behaving in alignment with your values, then then it all goes out the window, because there's an element of trust in this culture that you create. People say, hey, we behave in a certain way. We believe in certain things. But if the leadership is not seen behaving in that way, then culture goes out the window, because that level of trust is gone.
Absolutely. I think that the other challenge that you have is maintaining that when you are the number one company, you are the big boys, and it's very easy to let that distract you and make it think you are and always will be in that position.
Yeah.
So how do you make sure as an organization, and maybe even you personally, that you don't rest on your laurels and you continue to innovate?
Well, I think we have our chairman. If you say to Bill Marriott, what do you want? He'll always say, I want more. I want more guests. I want more happy guests. I want more associates. I want more growth. I want more opportunity. I want more opportunity for my people there. So we have a hunger in our company that comes from the chairman. And then I was I'm
surprised, because I've been to headquarters and I've seen the food that you have there. So I'm surprised that anybody that's hungry.
But we do. I mean, it is what defines it. We have, there's another one of Mr. Marriott's mantras, which is success is never final. Mm-hmm. You've never say you've arrived. We've never arrived. We've never arrived as a company. There's no end point that says, hey, we're done here now, we can rest on our laurels. And that's embedded in the culture. Yeah. It's the reason why when you're in a role and you're doing a great, you're trying to manage your own career, success is never final for your own career. You're never done. There's always opportunities to grow, learn, and develop.
This is interesting. This is a fun conversation. So I want to ask, before we actually get into Marriott like type stuff, even though this is in a way, I'm curious about that culture of failure. I've been reading a lot about it, trying to learn a lot about it, and I'm a big proponent, and you've got to try different things to see what works, right?
Yeah.
At least strategically. So what are some really cool things that failed, and how did you know it was failing, and then it was time to move on to try something else?
I mean, I think you can probably run through the gamut of many operational things. Where there was thoughts about, hey, let's put an exercise cycle or into every room, or have one on demand, so that if anybody wants one, you can have it. I mean, we tried it. We were trying to figure out how you would do it. We did a test in a couple of hotels, and it was just saying, this is like dumb idea. It'll never work. It's just logistically too hard. Where do you store the stuff? How do you do it? How do you track it and whatever? So I mean, I think there's a whole slew of operational stuff that I could point to, and God, I wish if you'd.
I know we're not prepared for this kind of a conversation, and it's spontaneously it's hard to come up with some.
But they are really about. I mean, I think the best ones are always the ones who say, "Hey, that's a great idea," and then you go out and it never really works. And I think the biggest challenge for a company, though, too, is to look at the stuff that they've done and say, "Did it work? Did it really drive?" I mean, there was a guy, a Harvard business guy. He wrote a book called. The book was all about innovation and how something like 70% of corporate initiatives fail, right? This is this is a uniform number across the entire universe of businesses, whether it be motor car manufacturing, GE, or 70% of initiatives fail. And yet, I think most companies talk themselves into the belief that we rolled out 100 initiatives last year, and they all succeeded.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
they all work. They all work beautifully.
I've seen bosses like that too.
And oftentimes, there's not a whole lot of rigor around trying to figure out, well, did we fail on that one?
Right.
And did we get the results we want? Well, they were kind of okay, and all that sort of good stuff. And you get into arguments about whether it did work or didn't work and that kind of thing. But I think as a company, we could do a better job of looking at the initiatives that we promulgate out there and make happen, and having better measurements. I think that's a big opportunity for any company, and it's an opportunity for us too, I think, to look at what we ask of our hotels to do. in terms of brand standards and that, and how can we have a better handle on the measurement of success?
Yeah.
Yes or no?
And
that, I think, educates you better then about the ability to innovate and kind of, you have this cycle of this feedback loop that says, hey, that didn't work, and then you can say, well, why didn't it work? Was it strategy? Was it execution? What was it?
Right. That's an important element of it, because something doesn't just, something will just succeed or fail, but you have to understand why. And that's where you need to apply some more critical thinking to it, because maybe the idea itself was good, but a portion of the execution made it fail, but it's still a valid idea.
Absolutely,
right?
Yeah. Absolutely. And what was it? Yeah. Is it poor execution, or a poor execution of one piece of it? Is there a way to tweak it, or should we stop doing it altogether?
Yeah.
And that's the other thing that companies need to look at as well. All the things that they mandate, any business.
That was going to be my next question.
Yeah.
I mean,
how do you kill things that are no longer relevant?
Right.
I heard a story one time, and I don't know if it's true or not.
It doesn't matter. We'll just say it is.
Ronald Reagan arrived into office, as president of the United States, and one of the first things that arrives on his desk is the coal report, the production of coal in the United States of America, where it is, where is it stored, and all that sort of good stuff. And he says, "Why am I getting a coal report?" And he was told, "Well, it's very, the Department of Energy produces it for you, Mr. President. It's a very important report." And apparently, this report was created during World War I. Why? Because the Navy, the U.S. Navy at the time, was coal-fired. So it was very important for the Department of Defense to understand, hey, how's coal production in the United States of America? Where is the coal? Can we get it onto our ships so that we can move men and materiel to Europe? And this was, when did Reagan come into office? 1980. And that was, 62 years after the end of World War II.
Right.
So that's now, and this is not a knock on government. It is a knock on bureaucracies. That the bigger the company, the bigger you are, the more likely you are to have many coal reports. You're stewing stuff that doesn't have any relevance today.
Right.
And so how do you because that, I think, is an opportunity for efficiency, to make life easier for people, to kind of say, hey, the things that we require you to do every day are relevant and should really help you drive your business. And if they're not, we should stop doing it. So I think the role of any good leader is also ask the question, hey, do we have any coal reports around here that we need to get rid of? I think it's a great question.
I think it is
but
a
I'd
great
love
question.
to find out if it's historically true.
I think we need to find that out. We'll check Wikipedia.
But it is a good
like
story.
That.
It sounds very Reagan-esque.
It really does. That and the Jelly Bean report. So, those are the two big things.
The Jelly Bean report was a critical one as well, too. Yes, indeed.
So that takes me to what you have to think about in your role as president of select and extended stay hotels, because you need to mandate what hotels should and should not have. So how do you determine what guests need versus guests what say they need and what they just want but it's not essential?
Yeah, it's kind of like Henry Ford once said, had I asked customers what they wanted, they would have said they wanted a faster horse. Right? And I think that is the challenge for any brand company, that it has to be a combination. Now, you need good research, right? In this day and age, you can't come out and say, hey, well, I think based upon my gut feeling that, when you have 30 brands, the guys who are out on the edge, like Henry Ford was back, talking about giant production line and the Model T, and you can have any color you want as long as it's black. They're the guys who are on the edge in terms of innovation, the innovators of the future, the captains of industry of the future. We're an established business. So I think you have to have you have to have that innovative thinking on the edge in the company that talks about what are the more innovative things we can do across all of our brands. And that melded with good customer data that says, what do our customers today say about all of our various brands, all of our various service offerings, and try and, from a psychographic perspective, to try and understand what they want. I mean, that's the key, I think, for we have 100 million Marriott Rewards members, right?
Wow.
I mean, we have 1 million rooms around the world. And, if you just do the math of how many millions of human interactions, let's say, you're just running 70%, for example, across 1 million rooms, 365 days a year. How many millions of human interactions are that between our guests and our associates? And how do we figure out, from a metadata perspective, from a data mining perspective, from a just asking our guests what they want, that good research, how do you try and figure it all out? So I know you started off, you said you have to decide.
Right.
It's not, I mean, at the end of the day, it's the collective wisdom from a brand organization, from a consumer research perspective, and from a metadata perspective that should enable us to figure out what our guests want. And I think the answer is, I don't know if you watch Fareed Zakaria on CNN, smart guy.
Yeah.
I
like his columns in Time magazine.
But he always has some interesting guys on. He had a guy on from Stanford, Stanford University, who said with 7 clicks of the internet, he can tell whether you are male or female, whether you believe in God or you don't believe in God, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, or whether you're gay or straight. And I was like, you kind of get frightened by that. You kind of say, how do they, with 7 clicks of the internet, they can establish all, so what else can we do from a psychographic profiling perspective? And then, I mean, it gets to there's always that realm of privacy and do good and whatever, but how do you specifically target your guests in terms of how do you understand what they really want, and how do you deliver it in the most effective way?
And that's tough because I feel like we're entering this era of mass customization,
Yeah.
where it's all about delivering highly personalized experiences for individuals, but doing it for 700,000 room nights every single day.
Yeah. I mean, you just look at every industry. It's all gone through this. 30 years ago, if you wanted to buy a Mercedes, how many choices did you have?
Right?
You didn't have too many.
No.
Today, I know how many model lines there are of Mercedes-Benz. How many? And Lexus came out with one car. And now, and how many model Lexuses are there? And if you think about Lexus, it's really it's a luxury brand under Toyota. Mm-hmm. So there's really a whole slew of other brands there as well. And you can go in and you can decide, no matter what the car is, what color, what kind of. There's a million features that they can put in there, and it's just and then. We in the hotel industry get somewhat criticized, I guess, over the number of brands we have and everything. And yet it is not unlike other businesses in terms that customers really want choice. I mean, we wouldn't be building them, or our development community wouldn't be building these brands if consumers didn't feel they had a need for them.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean,
It's interesting because there's that certain point of view where there's just too many brands and they're only introducing another brand so they could sell more in my community.
Yeah.
But there's another point of view, which I think you're talking about, where it's like I'm this individual person. I have my specific likes and needs. There's a lot of us that probably have a lot of those similar characteristics. I want a hospitality product that meshes my psychographic and who I am as a human being and recognizes me for that. So it's an interesting argument on both sides.
There is, and I think we have a long way to go in the industry. I mean, we're behind relative to other industries in the ability to offer up personalized solutions in terms of travel, whether it's to really, really understand you,
right,
and say, hey, you like that. You imagine a day where you say, I like a third pillow on the left-hand side of the bed because that's the side of the bed I sleep on. That kind of level of detail. Or, I don't know, you like a particular kind of shampoo or soap or deodorant. You're a bar of soap person as opposed to a body wash person.
Right.
Or, and something as simple as a paper. Something as simple as being able to say, as soon as you walk through the door of a hotel, there's some kind of attention gatherer at the desk that says, Glenn's just walked in and he stayed at the JW Marriott 2 nights ago now he's staying here, and you say, hey, welcome, Mr. Houseman, how are you doing?
Right.
How was your stay in San Antonio at the JW? And it's telling you he likes that, right? Some people don't. You say, what, are you guys stalking me?
Yeah, some people get freaked out.
Or versus a guy who says, I really like to be recognized, and I love to be recognized for my trips. I'm proud of it. I'm a road warrior. And there are people out there, I'm a bit of a road warrior myself.
A little bit.
I like to say, I was in Chicago and Cincinnati and, whatever. But there are guys who loved it. So the ability to understand how do our guests want to be interacted with is just as important as trying to understand what to deliver to them too.
Right. And then you add in that layer of where to use technology properly without, damaging the customer interaction. Because I'm really worried, especially in your world of select service, that owners and operators are going to want to take the easy way out and automate a lot of things, which could be dangerous because if you don't have those real emotional connections with individuals, the the folks that are at the hotel working every day,
That's that
and the
pix-
guests, then
that-
you could really run into trouble and fall into the commodity trap.
That's that pixie dust of service,
Yeah.
right? And I think there's a real economic imperative to that. Certainly, there are some customers who would enjoy an experience where they meet no human being at all.
Yeah.
It's a completely
Some days I'm like that.
completely automated hotel. You
Right.
go in, I imagine a day you have but there are others who say that's too sterile for me. We are human beings at the end of the day. We are social animals. We like the interaction of other people. Now, certainly there are people who are on a continuum of introversion to extroversion.
Right.
And, most people are in a happy... And some days, back to your point, you say, some days I don't want to deal with anybody. I just want to go into my room and that's it. I'm done. I don't want to talk to anybody. I don't need anything. I just need a good night's sleep.
Yeah.
Versus somebody said, got to be nice to have a beer with somebody or a place to have a beer and a nice place to go and whatever. And we got to know that. We need to do a better job understanding that. And I think there'll be remarkable transformations from that perspective in a short time. But back to your point about, yes, there's always that push from an owner perspective on an ROI, margin and productivity, and if can technology enable me to take out jobs. But you're right, it has to be, what does the guest want? And you can't provide a guest with a completely sterile and, kind of no human interaction if that guest doesn't want it, because they're not going to come back. So you gotta, yes, I think there is probably there's always a niche play for some of these more the hotels that are more on the extreme.
Yeah, obviously, I think that there will be a hotel at some point for the entire panoply of the human experience, no matter what it is that you want. It's just a matter of us working through and figuring it out. And some brands are going to do great. Some brands are going to be introduced and come and go and probably be absorbed by other brands as well. But how do you make sure that you could keep the customer experience for each one of these dozens now of brands clear in the consumer mindset? Or is that even possible? I can't imagine that every consumer would want to stay at every one of Marriott's brands, maybe because some are just in Africa alone, but because it may just not mesh with their lifestyle.
I think that's really the holy grail in terms of being able to have that clearly defined. What is a brand? A brand is two things, right? It's shelf space in the mind and a place in the consumer's heart. You have those two things right. They know exactly what it is and they love it. Yep. I want a soda, and the brain says Coke. The heart says, "Oh, I love Coke." Or Pepsi or whatever it might be, and that has to be the holy grail of every brand company. But I think I think that's another journey. That is another journey that we're on. Just as we talked about the technology piece, giving us the ability to completely understand our consumer, so too I think the technology piece gives us the ability to really clearly transmit what every brand is all about. But then you have the other issue of how well is it executed on property, right? That's the key. If the customer doesn't give a damn about your strategy or your brand promise or your brand positioning, except in the context of how he or she experiences at that individual moment, at that individual stay.
Yeah.
And again, it goes back to the thing of, a million rooms, millions of human interactions, and how do we get them all right? It's very exciting, right? And it's a great question to ask. Can you ever get to that place where you have such great clarity around what the brand stands for? And you kind of look at it, and you kind of ask yourself the question, what does any brand? So take Lexus. What does Lexus stand for, or Mercedes? And there's the squishiness about it too, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, it's a luxury product. The Mercedes, probably German engineering. Yeah. It's really well made. But then you have the same with Toyota. I mean, the Japanese have a remarkable reputation for quality as well. So it's a luxury product. It's really well made. And some of it is that intangible. How do you differentiate between a European manufactured car or a Japanese manufactured car that's probably manufactured in Smyrna, Tennessee?
Hopefully.
And the same with the Mercedes. BMW is a big plant in.
I've been there.
Down in the
One of the Carolinas?
Down in the Carolinas.
Yes,
Greenville.
South Carolina. Yes.
Just outside of Greenville.
Yeah, I actually got to go there once. Years ago, I was writing for AAA magazine. I got to go and do the test track and stuff like that over there. That was a real cool experience.
Yeah, and so here's the just an interesting kind of a side note, an anecdote on that. So you have German cars being built here in the United States of America, and you have Japanese cars being built and made here, everybody, Volkswagen's here, everybody's here. So, the Jameson, Jameson Irish whiskey, was owned by Irish distillers. We're having a big thing about the United States is a huge market for them. So they said, should we set up a distillery in the United States of America?
That's an interesting question.
It is, because they said, you know what? Then it's not, it's not Irish whiskey if it's made in America.
Right.
Right, and so how did they? So you wonder how that I think that's a leap of brand logic to say that they can't manufacture an Irish whiskey in. Right,
I don't know. It has to. If you start to do the arguments with the terroir and the weather conditions and all of that, I could see the argument for that. And I don't see that with a car, because to me, a car is a car is a car, no matter where it's built in the world.
No, you think with German engineering, doesn't that speak to made in Germany?
Yeah, German engineering, American manufacturing, great combination.
Yeah.
I love it. So, last question. We're already over our allotted time. With the merger that's happened,
yes.
What is the most exciting thing about it, and what is the most challenging thing about bringing together two big companies?
Oh, well, I think we talked about the most challenging thing is 30 brands and articulating what a brand promise is for each and every one of them, and I think we continue to do great work on that. So that's the most. But I think the greatest opportunity for us is to combine. We have 100 million Marriott Rewards and SPG members, and I think that is a powerful, powerful, powerful value proposition for those guests. That the ability to leverage that size for them in terms of the benefits that we provide them. It is a powerful opportunity for our presence in the marketplace, the gravity that we have, the size that we have, the ability to influence and control our destiny. And it is a powerful value proposition for our owners and franchisees.
And thank you for allowing me to combine points from 3 different programs now into one: Marriott, Starwood, and Ritz-Carlton.
You're very welcome.
Yes,
Glenn.
I know you did that personally, just for me.
For you.
So
just
I like
for you.
Any closing words? And of course, you get a shameless plug.
Oh, well, I just think Marriott is the best thing since sliced bread. So thanks for just thank you for having me on. Delighted to have spent the last 30 or so minutes with you.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun, and I really enjoy talking about in depth all of these different philosophical topics, as opposed to just talking about development pipeline numbers and stuff like that. Because I could read that on a piece of paper.
You can indeed. It's all about how we do our work, how we do our business is as important as the business we do.
You sure do, and I want to thank everybody for listening. I had such a great time talking to Mr. Brown over here, and I will be back next week. That is unless I decide to just give this all up and start traveling at Marriott hotels for a living. I might have to do that. Maybe I'll get involved in a mystery shopper program. Either way, see you guys next week. Thanks for listening.
Thanks so much for listening to No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast, with your host, Glenn Hausman, online at rouse.media, on Twitter at Traveling Glenn, and on Facebook.com/Glenn.Hausman. We'll catch you next time.